Are you ready to take your business to the next level? Every day there are countless books and articles that are published offering the key on how to make your business a success. It's easy to feel overwhelmed trying to keep up and run your business. That's why Deb Creer created the Business Power Hour. Keep up on the latest trends, best practices, and techniques for how to make your business a success. Let the Business Power Hour do the heavy work for you.
Good morning. Good morning. I am Deb Creer, and I am passionate about giving professionals the tools that they need to make themselves and their businesses as successful as possible. And today we're going to be talking to someone who I met on Lunch Club. I've talked about that several times in the past when I've had guests on from there. It's a great networking opportunity. You just have a brief conversation with people from around the world. I've been doing it for a couple of years. And so anybody who's interested, just let me know and I'll send you an invitation to it. But I have met some absolutely fantastic people. And one of those is who we are happy to speak with today. So please join me in welcoming Randall Craig to our program today. Welcome, Randall. How are you doing?
Oh, I'm pleased to be here. Thanks, Deb. Fantastic.
Perfect. Calling all the way from Toronto. You gotta love technology, right? It's just kind of one of those things where time, distance, space. I sound very Doctor Who, Dr. Timey-wimey. It doesn't matter anymore. But technology makes it so wonderful to be able to connect with people very easily from around the world, even though Toronto's not that far away.
Well, I absolutely agree. And I'll say that because before COVID and before we really became more comfortable with Zoom, for me to serve my clients, I had to get on an airplane.
Right.
But at this point, I've got clients in Europe, throughout America, even a couple in Canada.
Right.
The technology makes it possible.
And that's the nice thing is it not only has allowed us the opportunity to meet people, it's allowed us the opportunity to truly expand the fact that we can, especially if we're providing a service, we can work with people from around the world, and not get on an airplane, or as I say, don't have to put shoes on. Who wants to put shoes on? Well, let me tell people a little bit about you, and then we will dive into this. So Randall Craig is a serial entrepreneur who coaches CEOs on scaling their business, and he leads the Braintrust Professional Institute. He is the author of 8 books, over 600 articles, and has helped over 100 organizations scale their businesses, build capacity, and address their most pressing challenges. Randall has earned an FCMC, CFA, MBA, CSP, and he even earned a black belt in karate. He is also a Hall of Fame business speaker. So again, Randall, welcome.
Well, wonderful to be here. It's a little embarrassing when you read that bio, but what can I say? You are what you are.
Right. And you have very rightly earned all of those designations, and it makes you a true thought leader. And we're going to be talking about that a little bit.
Yeah, but we'll talk about that one later.
Well, one of the things I always like to ask my guests is how the heck did you get to where you are today? Tell us a little bit about how you discovered that, for at least right now, this is your passion in life.
That's a good question. I won't go back to high school because I think most people would be very bored by that. But I will say that after business school, I started an M&A, mergers and acquisitions, and I was the junior spreadsheet jockey. And I thought that the most important, the most creative part of the whole process was actually what the lawyers did. They structured the deals in different ways. They were involved in it. So I decided I was going to get a law degree. And I told my boss, who was the partner in charge, this is at KPMG where I was working, that I would be leaving. This is January. I'd be leaving in August. And he said, okay, thank you, Randall. The next day, I got hauled down to the vice chair's office. And his office was twice the size of my living room. It was a 12-foot desk. This guy's 6.5 feet tall, big guy. He said, Randall, I hear you're leaving us. I said, yes, Bob. I'm going to get a law degree. And he says, that's in September. It's January now. you're just going to get scut work between now and then. I said, well, listen, whatever it takes, I'm part of the team. He says, why don't you be my early morning assistant? And I said, what's an early morning assistant? He says, well, you come by my desk around 5:30, 6 a.m.
Yeah.
We just talk for 2 or 3 hours or so. And between 9 a.m. and 9 p.m., you do your day job and I'll do my job. And then I'll see you the next morning. I'm not an idiot. When a vice chairman of a multi-billion-dollar company says,
you say, yes, sir.
Yes, sir. And notwithstanding the fact that I'd never really been at my desk at 5:30 or 6 in the morning ever before, I thought, okay, let's do it. So essentially what would happen is there was 2.5, 3 hours of time every single morning where he would drill me on strategy questions. He would say things like, we're going to be we're exploring opening a new practice in this area. Tell me whether it makes what questions should I ask about it? Does it make sense? And he just pound me on that. Then he'd say, I've got a dispute between some of my partners. Can you tell me how we might resolve it? Gee, we're thinking about this. How would you do this? And bang, 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 bang. And at 9 o'clock, it's okay, bye-bye. I did my job, he did his. What was the job? This was back in the day, the early days of service marketing, when all the accounting consulting firms were merging. And in Canada, there was Pete Marwick and Thornton Winnie. They merged to become by far the biggest accounting consulting firm in the country. And my job was to work with him and work with him. My job was to put together the national marketing strategy for the firm.
Okay.
And here I was a kid, and there was 37 people in the national marketing group, and we had to reduce it. There's regional offices, there was individual offices, 75 across the country. And how does this new firm do marketing? And I found out a couple things. Boy, was that ever fun. Well, by the way, it was a very long day, 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. But A, it was a boatload of fun. B, I was really good at it. And C, I started to think that maybe, just maybe, going to law school is a big mistake. 3 years of student poverty, and who knows whether really I'd like it and everything afterwards. So I got a bunch of job offers and went to him and said, by the way, I've decided not to go to law school. What do you think? You work with somebody so closely for so long, you get to know
He was
each other.
really a mentor.
It was almost I call that really my first MBA. And honestly, he showed me how to become a senior executive, because he let me into the chamber, if you will. And it was something that some young guy in his mid-20s normally would never have had the opportunity to do. And so he eventually said, well, what about this? What about this? And looking at these offers, then they said, well, why don't you stay here? And I said, well, why would I want to stay here? And he said, well, what can we do to actually get you to stay here? And I said, well, I want this. And he says, done. And do you want that office or this office? And you know what the thing that was going through my mind, Deb, more than anything else? Crap, I left money on the table.
Right. I didn't ask for enough, right?
Yeah. So what I asked for is I wanted to be a leader within this marketing strategy. I wanted to implement and get the experience actually implementing in a complex environment, number one. And the second thing is I wanted to do billable work. So I knew that was the only path to partnership.
Right.
If I were to fast forward, I was at KPMG for 9 years. I was on the partnership track, but honestly, I thought to myself, I could build a business myself. And if it's successful, I could merge in as a partner. So I said goodbye and started my own consulting firm, which I built and eventually sold to an American public company, which, after I sold it, I went through the ranks there. I was a senior VP eventually there, and eventually left there to take a sabbatical, write a book, built another company, sold it just 2 years ago. Once again, a great experience, but a lot of my experience was helping companies figure out what the could be is. Oftentimes they didn't know what was possible. And my job was to say, well, how might we actually use some of the new ideas and trends and issues to amplify the growth or address the issue or have better product market fit. And some of that was a lot of that was in the digital space. You know, I helped a number of major market newspapers go online. I helped a number of global law firms with their digital strategy. You know, some of the you know, if there's a big brand name, certainly in the services or knowledge space, I've probably served them and done something. But of course, nobody knows my name, but they know the client's name.
Right.
So that gave me, you know, a lot of experience. And all the companies that I started and sold effectively did that kind of stuff. When I the last kind of thing I realized was that, you know, if you've got a lot of knowledge in scaling a business, on thought leadership, and I'm consulting, helping organizations, typically larger ones, but medium-sized, small ones, not-for-profits as well. You know something, it's a lot of the models that made me successful with my clients that were very applicable for entrepreneurs. They're very applicable for medium-sized businesses as well. So I started speaking about that, and boy, I thought I was hot. I'll say crap. Okay. And I remember once, you know, when I decided that I was maybe I've written a book, I should speak about it. I remember going to a speakers bureau, and they said, "Well, Randall, show us your website and give us a demo DVD," and all. I did that, and I remember being heartbroken when letter came in the mail saying, "Don't call us, we'll call you."
Oh no!
Because
like you said, you thought you were hot stuff.
So here's the thing that I didn't realize. Number one, the ideas were hot stuff, but the mechanism of actually sharing them, the mode of delivery, in this case, speaking in front of thousands of people, that's actually a skill. Just like being a management consultant is a skill. Fine, I'm a fellow CMC. That's pretty big in the management consulting world. Okay, that's a skill. But speaking in front of a group, it's not just public speaking. I've spoken, you know, I've been speaking once a month at conferences forever. But to be able to go up and say, okay, I've got an idea in my mind, and how do I make it so that the idea resonates with an audience such that they may actually do something when they leave the leave the auditorium. So, you know, so I realized, okay, I've got to invest in that in myself as well, because once you've got the content, the knowledge, the frameworks, and the delivery skills. So, you know, I'm pretty proud. You know, a year ago rather, I was inducted into the Speaking Hall of Fame, you know, and so yes, I can do that now. But it was a slap in the face when I got that first letter from a speaking bureau, and obviously it's something that makes a difference. I think the most important lesson I've learned in my career, and certainly as a serial entrepreneur, okay, you know, obviously, you know, make your payroll, right?
Right.
But you know, it's not just take care of the top line. Okay, just bring in the dollars and everything will sort of solve itself. But it's also the question of how do you build a business model that's sustainable, that can grow, that fits your particular lifestyle. You know, at the end of your career, that gee, you've got a business that you can actually sell, and you've built it in a way that you can actually do so. But along the way, you know, it's a question of how do you differentiate yourself. You know, it's not just a question of gee, you're a smart guy, or you've got a product that is got a great fit with a particular market. Somebody else can do it. Somebody from
There's unfortunately nothing unique any longer.
No, but there are some things that you can do to make it unique. So what do I do right now? Yeah, I'm still a professional speaker. You know, people get me to speak at conferences or to you know, corporate kickoffs or to boards or management teams. I spend a chunk of my time coaching CEOs, typically entrepreneurs, on how to scale their business. You know, the issue is one of my clients said, "Randall, you solved the Rumsfeld problem." Now, of course, every one of our listeners today knows what the Rumsfeld problem is. Well, I didn't actually. And the Rumsfeld problem, as I learned, was named after Donald Rumsfeld, the former Secretary of State, okay, fairly respected by many people, not respected by others, but he gave a speech a number of years ago. And he says, you know, I'm surrounded by lots of smart people, and we know what we know. But the thing that scares me, and I'm just paraphrasing here, is that we don't know what we don't know.
Right.
And too often, founders, entrepreneurs, CEOs, they know what they know, but they don't know what they don't know. If you ask, you know, if you say, here's a fact, here's a question, here's a challenge, they could usually solve the problem. It's just that they often don't know the questions.
Right.
So a lot of my coaching is, okay, solving that Rumsfeld problem. You know, what are the unknown unknowns? The third thing that I do is I've built something called the Braintrust Professional Institute, which is online training with some coaching on thought leadership and becoming a trusted advisor and a few other things, because sometimes it's not economic for you to actually get a coach and work on these things, but it's a lot more economic to do it on your own time. So that's what that is. So that's how I'm spending my time now. And I think, Deb, you know, we've talked before the show about your career trajectory. I think that, and it's probably true with a lot of your guests, everything that you've done in the past is what prepares you for the success you're having today. Right. And sort of that's how I feel too.
Right. I love it. You know, and the failures have also prepared us. You know, and I think that's one of the things that when we see someone who is a great leader, a great, you know, business owner, frequently they will say they learn the most from their mistakes and their failures.
I agree.
You know, and I think that's always very interesting. Because
you
know, for one thing, they'll admit it. Those who don't admit it, that's a problem in itself.
I agree. I think arrogance and hubris are and ego are things that absolutely prevent success. But I will say that there's two types of failure. There's the failures that you've talked about, which is, hey, we're taking a risk, okay, and we're going ahead, we're going to try it. We don't know what the market's going to say. We don't know if our people can rise to the occasion. We don't know, blah, 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 but we're going to go for it because we feel pretty. And if it fails, it fails. Those are absolutely right. Those are the good failures. The bad failures are the ones that are preventable. So, for example, somebody decides to reinvent the wheel before. And again, I should say, it's, I mean, the problem's been solved before, but they just didn't know what they didn't know.
Right.
And because of that, they fail, but it's a stupid, costly failure because they could have prevented it just by, you know, they just had more knowledge.
Yeah, and there is that thing called the internet. You know? But we see it all the time where somebody will say, I've got the greatest thing in the world. I'm going to make $1 bazillion. And you're like, yeah, but they already did it. You know, and you know, and it really is, you know, we do like to think that we've got these great, fabulous ideas, but frequently we have them because somewhere in our brain we know about those other examples, you know, and now maybe we're going to improve on it. We're going, you know, as we mentioned, you know, there's nothing unique, but there are ways to make things unique, more unique. Huh?
So here we are. We're at episode, what is it? 836?
836.
836. So I have for you the best business idea ever, Deb, which is,
okay,
you say, well, you could learn from the internet, right? Dr. Google solves everything. It's sadly not always the case. But I think your next initiative really should be this 836 page book called, you know, Insights from the Business Power Hour.
Oh yeah.
And I just can't imagine how many insights you've picked up just by interviewing all these different guests.
Right.
And I think that it's true that the internet has answers, but I think the fact that you're able to curate people in this, you know, you're not going to have idiots, right? People who are, you know, somewhat intelligent, and it's that person-to-person connection and the insights that you get from specific people, because the context that they bring is relevant to you.
Right.
So,
and people ask me, they'll say, what do I get out of it? Because it's not monetized. And should it be? Well, that's a different debate. But I tell people, out of these, now I have interviewed some of the same people multiple times. So it's not that I've had 836 independent guests, but probably 800-ish, I don't know. But I learn something every single time.
yep.
And to me, that is one of the coolest things about it. Even if it's a subject that I know quite a bit about, there's still something in there, some nugget that my guest has the insight to talk about. And
Yes.
to me, that's just wonderful.
Yeah, and thank you for having me on, by the way. It's really I'm really glad, by the way, you said there's about 800 different guests that you've had. I'm really glad that you decided not to do the book after guest number 799. Otherwise, I'd miss my page.
I know, you would have missed your calling.
Oh well. So that's kind of, that's how I got to where I am. And all I can say is probably with a lot of the people who are listening today, they probably realize that they're only successful when they actually have fun at what they're doing. Right. And that's how I feel too. And that's obviously, you exude fun at the same time. So I suspect you feel the same too.
I do. But we'll be honest, there are things that we do in business, whatever, where it's like, I don't want to do that, like invoicing. I'm not a fan of invoicing. However,
You're a fan
I
of
do know that, but that's one of the things where, as business owners, as business leaders, we need to outsource those things, and that's one of the things where we've talked about a lot with my guests is, when you start a business, we all like to think that we know it all. We don't want to ask for help because heaven forbid that we admit that we need it. But then we discover, hey, there's all this stuff that we either A, have no knowledge about, or B, just don't want to do. And so it's so important to be able to outsource, hire, do whatever, so that you can focus on those things that you love.
I couldn't agree more. Okay. And let me just extend the point as well. So for the smallest companies, the solopreneurs up to around 5 people or so, the people you outsource to, and in fact, the people you hire to be part of your team full time, and the systems and the processes that you actually have in place, those are optimized for a small business of your size. And so what happens, for example, when you become a 10, 15 person, 5 or 50, 200, 1,000? So it makes sense, although most people don't sort of think of it this way, that those people who got you to where you are today might not be the right people to get to the next size. Not just the employees, but the people you outsource to. The computers that you use, the systems, the internal processes that might be good at a 5-person or a 25-person is not good for a 100-person organization. And I think a lot of entrepreneurs find their challenge saying, well, one sec, they've been loyal to me. I've been, they're the ones who've driven our success. So, yes, at one hand, you want to coach them to see if they can grow along with you. On the other hand, I've seen a lot of businesses where they've kept people for too long, or they've kept outside advisors too long, or they've kept systems and processes too long. And I think that's the thing. It's not just the outsourcing, but recognizing that as you grow, you've got to make changes along the way.
Right. Yeah. And I imagine you deal with that a lot because you talk with business owners about scaling their business, and making that next step, getting from, and usually it's income level, so they're getting from, 10 million to 100 million or something like that. But, figuring out the things with, okay, do we have the right people, policies, procedures in place? And if not, what do we do? And I think that's probably one of the biggest challenges, because again, as the business owner, we don't know what we don't know. We're thinking, well, why can't we, we went from here to here, and why can't we just go from here to there? And we don't understand that there's all these changes and could be fundamental changes with how you do business.
So let me connect what you just said with an earlier comment you made, which is
Mhm.
this. Sometimes an entrepreneur, especially the smallest one, doesn't want to go to somebody else because, they don't want to. It's the very same with the business that's at 5 million, 10
Right.
million, 50, 100 million.
Mhm.
You're a CEO, you're a group of partners, or you're a managing partner, whatever the title is, and you're answering to a board,
Mhm.
and you don't want to go with them and sort of open the kimono
Mhm.
and get people wondering whether
Mhm.
you can't go to your direct reports
Mhm.
all the time because what your decision might be will impact them and they will have
Right. And
obvious
through a
biases.
variety of reasons, yeah, you don't want them to know.
And so that same thing is really at every single level there.
Mhm.
So yeah, when the question of scaling a business comes up, okay, which is kind of what it comes up with all the time with me, part of it is the question of okay, there's some problems that need to be fixed, things that prevent, right? So
Mhm.
those things but you'll never be preventing your way to growth.
Mhm.
Okay, all you're going to be doing is removing constraints.
Mhm.
Sometimes it's a people swap, sometimes it's processes or
Mhm.
systems, etc. Sometimes it's a business model kind of constraint. Sometimes it's financing for that
Mhm.
matter, obviously as well. So part of the scaling question is how do you address those problems?
Mhm.
And most leaders every leader that I've worked with, they know about what half of those problems are. They just don't have the experience to understand how to
Mhm.
fix it.
Right.
Okay, so that's part of the job.
Mhm.
The second part of it is really to say, okay, so how do we scale up to that next level?
Mhm.
What are those
Mhm.
opportunities? Is there an opportunity to white label or
Mhm.
to disrupt part of, or do we need to deaggregate part of what we're
Mhm.
doing? Or do we need to empower some of the leaders to be a little bit more entrepreneurial within the
Mhm.
organization? Or do we need to, and there's a million different ways
Mhm.
to do that transformative, disruptive thing. But sometimes it's just to say, no, we don't need to transform or disrupt or
Mhm.
whatever. We're not going to be the next Airbnb
Mhm.
or whatever the platform is.
Mhm.
But maybe we just need to relook
Mhm.
at sort of how our model is built to
Mhm.
serve the clients around us.
Mhm.
Here's us, and the whole business is moving, the whole
Mhm.
industry is moving around like this, right? Our
Mhm.
strategy might be not tuned to
Mhm.
what the market might
Mhm.
be saying. There may be some new entrants that are a bit problematic that
Mhm.
are taking clients we should be serving,
Mm. Mhm.
right? There's a million other ways
Mhm.
to generate the growth. Maybe
Mhm.
there's a digital angle of, white
Mhm.
labeling or shared services or a
Mhm.
million other different ways. So those are the kinds of concepts we can talk about.
Mhm.
But usually, after you give somebody an idea and they're really good as a CEO, they'll know what to do.
Mhm.
Okay. They'll know, they say, aha, the light bulb
Right.
went off for me.
Mhm.
The light bulb. I hadn't thought of it in that way
Mhm.
before. So
Right.
does that make sense?
It does. And I think it does take in many cases, as you're saying, kind of that initial outside force to show them what's going on. Because I think in many cases, and this is just purely anecdotal from my part, businesses think, okay, to scale up, we just need to do more. you know?
Sort of like, sort of
Yeah.
like
And
digging
so,
the grave
maybe they
faster.
produced, 100 widgets and they're going to produce 100,000 widgets. And they think, so we just need more space. We need more employees. And they don't understand everything that comes with that. They just think, okay, we need to do more. And it could be something as simple as, a small business owner who's, giving presentations. And they say, okay, we're going to go from giving 2 presentations a month to we want to do 20. And they don't, that process is, it's not just, hey, we want to do it. It's how in the heck do you get from A to B?
So let me give a tangible example using that webinar example, a
Mhm.
tangible example. Doing a webinar, doing a presentation, etc. Most business owners understand the concept of conversion. You
Mhm.
have so many suspects
Mhm.
that become prospects, that
Mhm.
become real leads, which become
Mhm.
proposals, which become
Mhm.
clients, and the percentage change is that
Mhm.
conversion rate. So if you've got an ad or if you've got a marketing initiative that converts, say, 5%, and you're thinking, okay, well, I can increase my bottom line by 20%. Okay, if I can move that conversion rate from 5% to 6%,
Makes
right?
sense.
And it does, it totally makes sense. And by the way, there's lots of ad agencies and marketing houses that'll say that. So I would say, yeah, that's true. But you're making a marketing investment on the 100%, not just the 5 or 6%.
Right.
So what if you also focus some of your marketing attention on the other 95%? What could you do with those? It could be the reason why those other 95% didn't convert is some shouldn't have been in there in the first place. Right? But most likely they registered, they put in their calendar, they chose to show up, they sat through the presentation, they maybe even asked a couple questions, but they're not saying no, but they're saying not yet.
Right.
So for
But
example,
then nobody follows up with them.
okay, now we're getting somewhere. So of the 95%, the other 95%, you can then phone up or email or whatever, every single one of them and say, hey, listen, I know it's a no, but maybe it's a not yet. And maybe we can send something to you like a, recording of the webinar that you could socialize with. Okay, so that's fine. Okay. But there's a concept that many marketers understand. It's called a long-term drip or long-term nurture campaign, where perhaps you provide over a period of time information, not pitch, buy now, not that, but information so that when they are ready to buy, maybe it's every 2 months, every month, every 3 months, whatever it is, when they are ready to buy, they'll say, aha, yes, Deb or Randall.
I remember Randall. He's the one that sent me a tip a week.
And more importantly, it probably isn't once a week. That's a little too much, okay? But imagine, for example, this was a pitch that I was making to you, Deb. And at the end of the pitch, I don't know, let's just say it's coaching. Okay, and at the end of it, you say, well, Randall, I don't really think it's for me, but at this time, but thank you very much. And I say, not a problem. And so, of course, I would do a follow-up. Dear Deb, wonderful spending some time with you. Okay, if I can help in any time in the future, please hear my contact points. And, from time to time, if I see anything, maybe I'll send it. And then maybe a month later, I send an email saying, Deb, hope all is well. I saw an article in the such and such, or I wrote a white paper on such and such. Thought you might find it interesting. Hope all is well, Randall.
Right. And you didn't try to sell me anything.
Nope. So at the end of this, there's two things that happen. First of all, you have a better understanding that I may actually have expertise. Number two, your trust level in me has actually gone up.
Right.
So if we think about expertise and trust, if we sort of super amplify them, expertise, that's thought leadership. Okay, trust, that's positioning yourself as a trusted advisor. Okay, so at that point, maybe whatever, you'll call and you'll say, hey, can you help out, Randall? Or what you'll do is you'll say, you'll perhaps tell one of your colleagues or friends or business associates.
You're a great dude. You need to talk to this person.
Exactly. So yes, you can do lots and lots and lots of presentations, twice as many. But if you don't have the concept of that nurture campaign in place, you're giving up the other 95% of your investment rather than just focusing on the 5%. So that's an example of okay, what are some basic, simple things we can do to scale that don't mean more wheel spinning, but
right. Yeah, and I unfortunately we see that wheel spinning a lot. People, it's the I'm going to offer. I see people new product. I'm like, well, but if you didn't sell the first product, are the next 5 or 6 going to sell? And we probably all done that ourselves.
Yeah.
But it is, you mentioned something that I think is just absolutely critical in this whole thing, and that is that trust factor. And it is so easy, especially in this day and age of social media, for that trust to go away. And, it is just so hard then to even get it back because, they might have, said, okay, well, Randall had said he would do this and he didn't. So I'm going to, I'm going to not connect with him on LinkedIn. So then they're never going to see your stuff anymore. I mean, all those things. And so trust is something, and I think it's something that so many people unfortunately take for granted, but they don't realize that they have to nurture it all the time.
So here, you're absolutely right. It's like you're channeling the words from my brain into your mouth, Deb.
And I didn't even read any of your fabulous books. Oh my.
So I'll give you another example. Okay. There's a lot of people who think that because they've got a website and they're selling things, and whether it's B2C or B2B, it doesn't matter. There's one particular marketing approach that certainly back in the 1990s sort of came into its vogue, and it's called a lead magnet. And all that means really is it's a piece of value-added content, like a white paper or an ebook or whatever tool or of some sort, that if you sort of give your contact information, the exchange will be the lead magnet.
Right. The whatever it is.
And that seemed in the early and mid 90s that kind of made a lot of sense. Well,
because we were told your database is so important.
It is. But let me ask you, in today's cynical marketing world where people are bombarded with tens of thousands of messages and everything, if I threw a little pop-up thing on my website or even like a little corner widget that said, get the free ebook on such and such, just give me your contact information. Have I earned the right to ask yet? No. Have I built trust? No, of course not. Of course not. And so anybody who's doing these lead magnet things in that way is using the best marketing thinking of 25 years ago. Right. And it's not going to be effective. So if you actually went to my website, and I'm not saying I'm the best, but it's an example of a way to address that, is you go to www.randallcraig.com and you go into the thought leadership section for white papers. And if you click on one of the white papers, I'm not saying you should do it right now, but I'm saying that you click on my lead magnet, you actually get a page with the whole white paper, and you start to read and you think, oh, this is really helpful. And you read some more and, oh, this is really good. Then all of a sudden, this little box sort of near, that says, enjoying the white paper. Okay. Contact information, will send it to you immediately. And so in this particular case, I've earned the right to ask. Okay. I've built the trust because they've actually read through some of it. I've given them more than just a promise for something of dubious value. And the interesting thing for those who are using this technique is that the prospects that come through, these leads that were magnetized, they're already qualified.
Right.
Okay. There's already a degree of trust built. So when you actually have the conversation, it's not, hey, can you buy my services or products? Really, it's a very different one. No, tell me, you read through the whole thing.
What do you think?
Yeah, what do you think? What resonated with you? Right? And it's a much higher order conversation just because it's a higher quality lead. So that's an example of precisely what we're talking about. Same thing with respect to how we differentiate our businesses. Is we can only do it in one of three ways: price, expertise, or trust. That's it. Okay. Force of personality doesn't sort of rank up there, right? So we can compete on price, in which case all of our marketing stimulus is all about, here's the deal, we're cheaper than anyone else. But that's not a sustainable business.
No.
Right? Unless you're the cheapest of the commodities, I mean, there's nothing to be done there. Expertise, my challenge to people is to ask, how much have you actually invested in yourself? Honestly, beyond, college and everything, how much have you actually spent to invest in yourself and your team? Okay, because there's a lot of very, very smart people coming out of school that might not have your experience, who might know more than you, and eventually they'll out-innovate you and they'll out-serve you. And so expertise is much better than price, but it's also fickle because you have to continually invest in yourself.
You can always find somebody who is more of an expert.
That's right. But I'll tell you, it's table stakes. If, honestly, people don't care about me. They don't. Okay. Well, you might care about me. Okay.
Yeah, really?
but people don't care about me or you. They care about how we can solve their problems. And expertise, if you have that expertise and proof of it,
Mhm.
then perhaps, just perhaps,
Mhm.
okay, you've got a chance at the business.
Mhm.
So when we think about proof, what is proof?
Mhm.
You know what? Fine. If you go to my website, randallcraig.com, there's 600 free articles on there. Okay, dive into
That's
them.
a lot of expertise, or I should put it a lot of proof of expertise.
It's proof of expertise.
Mhm.
Hopefully it's got value, and
Mhm.
our viewers, listeners can read as much as they like, or even sign up to receive it weekly.
Mhm.
Okay, but that's an example of proof. There's a whole
Mhm.
bunch of others. How many books you've written?
Mhm.
You know, how, you know, who hires you to speak at their conference, or who's your client. So all the different ways of expertise to prove. But I'd say that's still not enough, because unless there's trust,
Mhm.
okay, that gee, when so and so gives me a piece of advice, or gee, this product will actually work,
Mhm.
unless that trust dimension is there too, okay, there'll always be somebody else who's got a
Mhm.
sustainable competitive
Right.
advantage.
Right.
And then there's the question of, well, how do we prove
Mhm.
trust? And that's a whole other. And how do we develop it? And how does that fit into a marketing plan?
Right.
So that's kind of where my mind's at
Mhm.
anyway.
Right. You know, and with trust, it because to you, I agree with you that it is the most important, because if you don't have trust, I might pay more to go to somebody else, or even if they don't have as much expertise, if I don't trust that you're going to do it. And I think a good example right now is probably Southwest Airlines. you know they hello, they just really messed up a lot of people's trust. And they are the inexpensive airline. We fly them all the time. Because they are the least expensive, all sorts. We're not the least, but they're
Yes.
but the when they now there are people who are going to go back to them no matter what, and a lot of people will eventually go back to them. But now people are like, well, I'm going to pay more because whichever airline is going to get me where I want to go, and not send my suitcase 900 different places.
Okay, so let's just deconstruct that a sec. What you just said, because I'm going to go there because they can actually deliver on their promise.
Mhm.
Is that not expertise? Gee, I can move a plane and load people from point A to point
Right.
B. Okay, the trust angle is really all tied into brand equity.
Mhm.
And whether Southwest Airlines is able to actually win back
Right.
people,
Mhm.
they've expended a huge amount of brand equity.
Mhm.
And they'll either be able to rescue it or they'll not. But
Right.
trust is shaken,
Mhm.
because people are going to say, well, trust, but now let's also verify,
Right.
right? And that's a little bit different.
Mhm.
One of the models that we use with all of our clients is something called the trust curve.
Mhm.
And I think that this is something that is apropos to our conversation as well. And I think one of the problems with a lot of traditional marketing, just as an example, is that too often it's using frameworks like the 4P framework,
Mhm.
price, product, place, promo, and gee, if you get all these things right, all will be good with
All
the.
is wonderful.
And in the 1960s, in late 60s, when this first came about, it was revolutionary. It wasn't just gut, although
Right.
gut is very critical too.
Mhm.
But the framework works. The problem with that
Mhm.
framework and that old school marketing thinking is that where's trust in that equation? It's not there.
Mhm.
So one of the a replacement model that we use with all of our clients, it's our model, is
Mhm.
called the trust curve. Essentially, it says that as trust increases, people will move from who the heck are you to committed. Okay, I'm signing the
Right.
contract, I'm buying the product or service, and people move through 4 stages:
Mhm.
awareness, preference, trial, commitment.
Mhm.
It's not particularly rocket science, but if you think about as an organization, what your marketing plan is, it's what are the things that generate awareness, build trust?
Mhm.
What are the things that say, hey, listen, it's me,
Mhm.
or my products, my company, my
Mhm.
services that you want to do? That's preference.
Mhm.
What are the initiatives that drive trial? And what are the initiatives that cause people to actually sign?
Mhm.
So, Deb, in our conversation before, I don't think I asked you this question, but what kind of car do you drive?
It's a Nissan pickup.
A Nissan pickup.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, no Ford F-150 for you.
That's a little big.
It's huge. So let me ask you, before this Nissan, what did you drive then?
Dodge.
And the reason why you decided to get the Nissan was what?
I wanted a pickup.
Wanted a pickup. Okay, that's
And it was
awareness.
available. I mean, it wasn't exact. So I'm one of those where brand, there was no brand loyalty. I
Yeah.
mean, it was, and I bought it during COVID, so that just made things really wonkadoodle. But what happened was I trusted the dealer.
So let's just hold on this one for a second,
Mhm.
okay? Because for other people who are listening, the reason why they might want that new car is because they've got kids, they want a van. They
Right.
don't have the kids, they want a sports car.
Mhm.
The old car costs too much, whatever it is, but
Mhm.
awareness, okay, need a new car. Preferences, why did you get Nissan rather than the other? Why did you consider Nissan? So from a business's perspective, what are the things that you're doing to have people prefer you?
Mhm.
What are those trust building
Right.
activities that cause people
Mhm.
to prefer you versus somebody else?
Mhm.
In your particular case, availability. And for a
Mhm.
lot of people during
Right.
COVID, car
Mhm.
availability was huge.
Mhm.
Sometimes it's what did my friends say? That's social
Mhm.
media, or that's the
Mhm.
neighborhood. Sometimes it's wow, look at those commercials on TV.
Mhm.
There's always a marketing stimulus to
Mhm.
generate preference. Now, when you went to dealer, okay, I'm just guessing you did not have a barrel full of money that you dumped
Yes.
on the sales,
Here.
and they said, okay, here we go.
Mhm. Have
Here's
your
the key.
keys. Mhm.
No, you probably said, okay, that sounds interesting. Let me take it for a test drive,
Mhm.
right? That's trial.
Mhm.
And then at the very end, it's commitment. And
Mhm.
that's when they say, well, you could do financing with this, or you could do
Mhm.
all these different stimuluses to make it easier for you to actually
Mhm.
commit. So if you think about this trust curve, by the way, it works in almost anything. Think
Mhm.
about hiring people.
Right.
Okay. Gee, I need somebody. That's
Mhm.
awareness. Preference is let me advertise.
Mhm.
Trial is the interviews, and
Mhm.
commitment is the job offer.
Mhm. We're back. We had a dramatic pause in here.
Yeah, and the dramatic pause, of course, is caused by the wonders of the internet. My
We
apologies
bragged
for
about
that.
it, and
So
look what happened. We broke it.
we did need the strength of our ideas, Deb. What can I say?
I love it. So you were talking about
So
the trust curve and how even hiring an employee goes through those four steps.
anytime there's a decision that a business needs to make, the
Mm-hmm.
trust curve applies.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing, it may have got cut off, but at every touch point,
Mm-hmm.
trust either goes up,
Right.
goes down.
Mm-hmm.
If you think of every client, customer, contact,
Mm-hmm.
referral source, whatever
Mm-hmm.
comes in contact with anybody in your organization,
Mm-hmm.
the trust goes
Right.
up or down.
Mm-hmm.
The trick is how do you make up
Mm-hmm.
the trust curve, not down.
Right. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that struck me as I had the dramatic pause to think about this was it's both sides. The trust curve is happening with both sides of the people doing the transaction. The
Yes.
business is trusting that you're going to follow through with your commitment of buying, doing whatever. Same with the employer. Is the employee going to do that? But the employee is looking at, is that employer going to follow that trust curve? Because they want to make sure that that's going to happen too. And I think that's something people need to remember is it's a two-way street.
It is a two-way street, okay, and most of my work is frankly on the marketing and business growth side, not on the pure HR.
Mm-hmm.
But what I would say that too often there isn't the structure and the marketing strategy.
Mm-hmm.
There's all these big things, but literally, what are the things that move your business from awareness to preference
Mm-hmm.
to trial, from trial to commitment, okay, and then generate loyalty. It's really no harder than that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's I think the essence of how you build that trust
Mm-hmm.
through the various everything through. So
Right.
and that's what we
So
teach
how
the
does a
Braintrust.
business even get started in the trust curve?
I think the answer to that one is a little bit more complex. Certainly, there's a process we take our clients through, but I never suggest that at the very beginning. What I do is I'll give anyone 15 minutes of my time. I love learning about different businesses, and certainly anybody here who's listening, I'd be happy to spend 15 minutes and give you some perspective one way or the other. And am I allowed to say how they can reach me or not?
Well, we'll get to that because we definitely do want you to provide that information.
So what I typically will do is get a sense as to what the scope of their problems are. And sometimes they don't need to go through this whole trust curve program. Sometimes they need a little bit of coaching because once again, they may not know, they'll know the answers if they knew the right questions.
Right.
And that might be all that they need. Maybe all they need, I can send you one of my white papers. I got 40 of them. Okay, gee, they're selling the business in a couple of years. Here's a white paper. You're concerned about recession-proofing your business. Here's a white paper, et cetera, et cetera. And sometimes it's okay. Let's go through the trust curve. The easiest thing actually go and write down 4 words: awareness, preference, trial, commitment, and look at what you're doing right and saying, what am I doing right now in each of the 4? And if you've got that, you probably notice that some are a little weaker than others, and start out the weaker stuff for stuff that's more impactful, greater business impact.
I love it. And as you said, it's knowing the questions that sometimes is the trickiest part. And because we don't know what we don't know.
Yes. So exactly. What else can I answer for you, Deb?
I always ask my guests for things that they want to cover. And one of these really piqued my interest. You said, are you a golfer, academic, commodity, or star? Tell us more about that, because I'm not a golfer. But I'm guessing that you don't really mean a golfer.
No, and I don't mean an academic either, for that matter. So keeping talking sort of around the topics of thought leadership and trusted advisor. And they're actually 2 different things. And what I'd like you to do is think about a 2x2 matrix. Going up and down is you're a trusted advisor. You've got low trust advisor status, or you're really a high trust. And along the bottom axis, imagine thought leadership. And so you don't have much thought leadership. Yes, you might have expertise. You might even be an expert, but you're not a thought leader. Okay, and at the other side of it is you're very, 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 very much a thought leader. And so the people who are very, very low thought leadership, but also low in the trusted advisor, they're commodities. People who are trusted advisors and thought leaders,
you just buy them to buy them. There's not much. You just buy it.
Right. And the people who are really thought leaders and trusted advisors, they are the stars. The people who've got lots of trust but low thought leadership, those are the golfers. And the people who are really thought leaders, but they haven't sort of moved up that trusted advisor scale, those are the academics.
Right.
Lots
that
of
makes
knowledge.
Sense. They're book smart.
And they're book smart, or they've got lots of research, or they're just brilliant, but they haven't figured out how to move up that trust curve yet, really, and therefore make a real difference. Obviously, everybody's in a different place in these 4 quadrants. And the question is, for your business, for you as a leader, how do you move towards, or if you're happy being an academic, how do you maximize your academicness or become a great golfer? My suggestion is, if you want to grow a sustainable difference, you have to move from golfer or academic up to star. And if you're a commodity, it's just a matter of time before somebody eats your lunch.
Right. Yeah. Because if you are just a commodity, that means you're, in many cases, only competing on something like, say, trust or not trust, price. Price was what I meant to say. And so then somebody comes along and beats that price. And it doesn't matter what it is, whether it's the pickup, whether it's your laundry soap, whether it's a consultant, somebody offers you a better deal. And, if somebody's just the commodity, you're like, okay, fine, I'll switch.
Price, expertise, trust. And let's face it, there are some businesses that say, listen, we have to be competitive.
Mhm.
And for those business leaders, I'd say yes,
Mhm.
but it's not a question of reducing price. It's a question of providing value.
Right.
And value may be less expensive,
Mhm.
right? But clients, customers, they're more concerned about value than price. Yes, some truly don't have the money to afford, but most
Right.
are concerned with solving a problem and therefore value.
Right. And let's be honest, the people that we're talking to who are listening to this program, they're in the realm, they're not the commodity people. They don't want to be the commodity people.
No,
They want to be the stars. And so that's the cool thing about what we're doing here is helping them along the way. Well, Randall, oh my gosh, we are almost out of time. And I did pause the clock while we were having our little technical difficulties. But I would love to have you on again to continue to follow up with this because I think it's just a fascinating conversation. But tell people where they find you and what are the services that you provide.
wonderful. So go to randallcraig.com, and under thought leadership, there's 600 articles. There's
Mhm.
no cost. There's a small number of the white papers I've written.
Mhm.
Great information there. Once again, no cost at all.
I signed up for the weekly tip sheet.
We're relaunching that in just a few weeks. Your listeners will probably be able to get it fresh off the bat. We've
Right.
got, but if you want to speak to me, I'm happy to meet with
Mhm.
anybody for 15 minutes
Mhm.
and let me know your problems. It's
Mhm.
a 15-minute test drive. Ask me anything. And if I've got a resource, I'd be happy to send it to you based on a conversation. If it turns out that you have something more substantive, okay, we could talk about that. We've got the Braintrust Professional Institute also
Mhm.
available at randallcraig.com,
Mhm.
which is online learning on being a trusted advisor or being a thought leadership. Thought
Mhm.
leadership is now, launched. The trusted advisor one will be shortly.
Cool.
And obviously, if people would like me to speak at a conference, you could reach out to me then.
Mhm.
To book a meeting with me, randallcraig.net/15. randallcraig.net/15 to get all the free resources on the randallcraig.com website.
Perfect. I love it. I love it. And I was looking through your website before we started and was just dumbfounded at how much great information there is. And partially because a lot of people will go, well, why would you be giving it all away? You're not giving it away. That's the thing is you are showing them that you are that trusted resource. And it's I always it bothers me when I talk to people and I can't give you anything. Oh no, can't give you anything. It's like, okay, so you don't want to be that trusted person because to me that's part of the trust factor.
I'll also say there's a bit of laziness in here. Uh, and the reason why is because before anyone engages me as a CEO coach, as a business coach,
Mhm.
okay, always a question in their mind: how do we know how you think?
Right.
And it's a lot easier for me to say, hey, buy a whole bunch of my books, or
Mhm.
just go to my website
Yeah,
and
read
read
some of the white papers. Read
and
your blog.
do my, and if they do that, they say, okay, I think this guy is on the right track.
Right.
So I don't want to say laziness, but it makes it easier for
It pre-qualifies them.
it. It does, but it
Mhm.
also, there's a certain ego in it. It's very nice when you're quoted in the newspapers, or
Mhm.
very nice when powerhouses like Deb and the Power Hour say, "Please, can you join us on the podcast?" So that's part of it too. So thank you for asking.
Well, see, and I knew we would have an absolutely fascinating discussion, and it's been so much fun, and really, I can't wait to do it again. And so I look forward to that. But until then, do you have any final thoughts that you want to leave everyone with?
Yeah, I guess one of my clients earlier on today said, "Oh my God, there's so much to do. It's almost overwhelming." Now, she wouldn't admit that to her board or to her management team. And I'll say this: everybody is where they should be in their business. Okay, the only thing that you have under your control is what direction that you wish to take it and how you want to use your time, whether you've got the right knowledge and supports to get you. And as long as you take one step along that path, okay, you're going to get to where you need to go. And if I can help in any way, I'd love to meet you.
I love it, Randall. And I can't wait to talk to you again. This has been a wonderful discussion. I'm Deb Creer. I've been talking with Randall Craig. And until next time, everyone have a great day.
Tune in for our next program for even more trends, best practices, and techniques for how to make your business a success. The Business Power Hour, hosted by Deb Creer, is proud to be part of the C-Suite Network.